Dear Thai, dear Sangha, um, I would like to ask about the certain point in the third training, mindfulness training, when it says that you shouldn't have a sexual relationship before having a serious commitment for the future. But many of us find very difficult to understand how can you make a commitment for the future if you haven't sort of experienced with the person first. I mean, love is and communication is great, but sex is a very strong energy. And I mean, if you are 70, perhaps it's not that important, but before, it's just very strong. I find it very difficult to think of ignoring it somehow. I don't know. Please.
Dear Sangha. Difficult question. Well, I had a life before I became a monk. And there was a situation where I had a girlfriend and she had 2 kids. And there was still an ex-boyfriend around. And I think our relationship were mainly based on physical and intimacy. And it was great, and it felt good, and there's a lot of healing happened in that relationship. But we couldn't make it to mutual understanding. That means we were not able to listen deeply to each other. There were always some misunderstanding, and but we still continue to keep that relationship. And I think it was around after 2 years or 2.5 years, ex-boyfriend, he committed suicide, and that was the end of our relationship because we were never able to speak with each other, to share, you see, and because our relationship based only on intimacy and physical attraction. So this was a moment where huge suffering was created on both sides, and that gave me a lesson what it means, what can happen if you're not solid and stable enough being together and go through difficult moments. And that's an extreme story, but to go into also another point is like maybe you see it as a commitment that is forever. It's not like that, but I think we go on a certain point where we feel enough close and we have enough mutual understanding to make the next step into intimacy. Because what I learned when I look back when I was young, I never listened to my body when I was in contact with a woman. I overhear my emotions and my feelings, and so I didn't listen. I didn't stop. You know, I didn't say, "Okay, let's wait." You know, my mind says, "I'm a man. You know, I have to be good. I have to do this and that, and all these ideas." And I think it's very important to build that up. You know, with slowly with being together, going through things together, because many times we just talk about our life, and our partner talks about their life, and we think we understand each other. But if something happened like that, in my case, then it's an extreme situation, but then you know what it means to be together. Can you go through something or not? So it's very important to take our time and to really prove the relationship. And I think intimacy and contact with body brings a lot of feelings, emotions up, because the touch, there's information, there are experiences stored in our body. So if you touch, and then that's come up, so you have to take care and look into that. It's very important, and not go over it just because you have sexual energy, like a strong desire and a strong drive. And that's a difficulty, especially for a man. I would say it's more difficult for a woman to control that, and so. And also, I think the woman needs to help the man. That's my experience. If that works, that the woman knows that drive and she knows how to calm him down, and the man knows how to. The other side, this is a play, and for that we need time. I can really suggest the book about. Ty wrote a book about intimacy. What's the title? Fidelity.
Fidelity.
Yeah, it's a very good book which he described the deeper connection of looking for intimacy and like original desire and original fear. It's a very deep topic. If you're interested, I can recommend that book. As monastics, with our drive and sexual energy, we still have. It's normal. It's life. And what we do is that we work a lot with food. Maybe when you came here, and the food was less sugar, less protein, and you felt the difference. You may have not so much energy, sexual energy, or in general life energy. And so you can regulate that energy in the relationship. And also the way we live. If we use our energy skillful in life, in our job, in our society, in the environment, we have less drive. So we're less pulled by this energy. So we can protect and to create an opportunity to build up intimacy and sexuality in a slow way and in a very natural way. With, of course, mindfulness is a good part of it, the basic practices. So, yeah. And I think today is very difficult because we have so much influence from the medias, from the everywhere, especially men, who is very visual. The sense is very visual, and you are bombarded by pictures. You have a lot of input, and this makes it very difficult then to keep it natural and just say, okay, I'm not ready, or I feel tension, I cannot, or so it needs time. There was something interesting I learned about these two kinds of. Sexuality can be very nice or very pleasurable when there is no understanding. That means when you're not touched by suffering, Also, when you're together, when you not really suffer, or you feel free and relaxed, and then sexuality is more, relaxed. But to know each other and to come close to each other means you get in touch with the suffering and with the mud of the person, and that makes sexuality different. So it's easy to maybe you all know that in the beginning everything is more like relaxed and free, and then suddenly you know each other's difficulties, and you kind of start to have tensions between each other, and then the way sexuality is changed. So then the thing is, maybe some couples that break up, but the other point is, can you make it through that? Can you heal that? Can you create happiness and joy with that tension, with that what you have between that person? and create relaxation together, to have sexuality more free. So it's very dangerous that we have to think, well, that's good sex, but it's actually just, you don't know each other, and our teacher called it empty sex, or empty body sex. And he said it's very harmful, because I think you touch many things and you don't really aware, and then the hurt can come up, and you can really, you can cause a lot of damage. You think it's just pleasure and it's nice, normal, everybody do it, yeah, okay. But then it can be really challenging. Yeah. I think that's something from my experience, and I really think it's a very important topic for all of us, and for the world and the future. Thank you.